All right, this morning something unusual. Republicans, even the Trump campaign, trying to undo some of the damage from Donald Trump's big rally here in New York City. Specifically, comments made by comedian Tony Hinchcliffe. He was invited, remember, by the Trump campaign to speak at this rally. Listen.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
All right, why are Republicans so nervous about those comments right there? Well, it has to do, as I said, with one of the most important voting blocks in one of the most important places, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, you remember the Commonwealth. Joe Biden won it by just 81,000 votes in 2020. Donald Trump won it by 44,000 votes in 2016. So you get the idea. It's really close in Pennsylvania. Okay, there are around 600,000 by some counts, 600,000 Latino voters, I'll put an L right there, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Around, by some counts, 300,000 Puerto Rican voters in the state of Pennsylvania, the third highest Puerto Rican population in the entire country. You will notice one thing about these two numbers here. They're both way bigger than the margin in Pennsylvania the last two elections. They are a key voting bloc in the Commonwealth. And it's not just the numbers, it's where they are in the Commonwealth. Let's focus in here now. The darker the shade, the greater the population. And there are a few places that are pushing 30, 40, 50% Hispanic population. I'm going to circle them right here around these three counties and these two counties here. And if I take out this filter and go back to the main map, what you can see is that 4 years ago, Joe Biden won 3 of these counties. Donald Trump really won 2. And there's some of the swingiest in this swing Commonwealth. Let's just push in. Everyone knows Joe Biden, of course, is from Scranton, Lackawanna County. He got 53% there. It's really tight. Nearby Wilkes-Barre, Luzerne County. Donald Trump won that, but again, 56 to 42, pretty tight there. You go a little bit south here. Reading is Berks County. Donald Trump, 53%, again, very close. Maybe the most telling is Lehigh County. That's where Allentown is. People know the Billy Joel song from Allentown, but Lehigh County's had huge demographic shifts over the years, has nearly a 50% Hispanic population. And you can see Joe Biden won 53% of the vote there, 98,000 votes. He was able to get 17,000 votes more than Hillary Clinton did. This is often seen, Lehigh County, as one of the most important swing counties in the entire country. Huge Puerto Rican population, Kate. You can understand why Republicans are nervous about this campaign. Kamala Harris was in Pennsylvania talking to Puerto Rican voters while they were being made, Kate.
Exactly. It'd be a perfect illustration of exactly what is before us today. Joining us right now to talk much more about it is former Trump White House Associate Counsel May Mailman and longtime Democratic strategist Doug Thornell. It's great to see you guys. May, this joke, non-joke, this happening now, attacking Puerto Rico from the stage, this happening now is part of what is obviously very clearly both campaigns trying to lock in their closing argument. This happening now does what?
It doesn't do anything positive, right? Like, I don't know who this guy is. He doesn't seem very funny. I don't know why comedy has turned to just like picking out various groups and making fun of them, but that sort of is the way that it is. And it's like, people need to get smarter. But if you actually listen to what Trump said in his speech, he starts off by, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Great, that's on message. He says, I'm here with a message of hope. He gives promises a tax credit to essentially women, to home health care providers. These are people who have older parents and often kids. Like, this is a gettable group. So there was a lot of positive that happened. And then you have this random person saying something very not funny. And I don't think he'll be getting a Netflix special anytime soon. So, it's frustrating.
Doug, the Trump campaign did, as John was pointing out, moved quickly to disavow this remark, distancing themselves from it. But at the same time, they also did not move to disavow what else was said from the stage. If we're just talking about in the lead up to him coming on stage, one of his warm-up acts calling Harris the devil and antichrist, another likening her to a prostitute, saying that she and her quote-unquote pimp handlers will ruin the country. That says what and does what?
Well, remember, they approved all these speakers. I assume if they're a functional, competent campaign, they approved what they were going to say on stage. So them trying to push back now is a little bit hard to believe. I think it put the whole MAGA movement on display, and I can tell you from what I've seen doing a lot of races around the country, the MAGA brand is deeply unpopular and brings Republicans down. And I think, you know, a week out from the election, this being kind of the last big image of the campaign is going to be bad for Trump. And I hear May on what Trump may have said in his speech, but quite frankly, what's being clipped and what's being sent out there, especially in Latino communities, isn't anything he said. It's all the other divisive stuff that was said by his surrogates. And that's not the way you close a campaign, you know, 8 days out.
Doug, let me ask you this, though. At the same time, we have seen leading up to this point, this isn't the first time that there has, even Donald Trump himself has said something that you would view as offensive to Latinos. One thing we have seen, though, since 2016 to now is he's made gains with Latino voters. Kamala Harris is seeing less support among Latino voters than other Democrats. He is making gains from where he was in 2016. How do you explain that, and what do you think that means about where we are, Doug?
Well, look, I think if you look at, there was a competitor network poll out yesterday that showed Kamala Harris actually doing very well, in fact, better with Latino voters than Joe Biden did in 2020. So I think that with a week out, we have still a few number of undecided voters. They're tuning in. And I think if they're tuning in, then they're seeing this MAGA movement on full display, the bizarre, hateful rhetoric. I think that's going to turn a lot of people away. And I think it also turns a lot of other voters away, suburban voters that are up for grabs. So I think what we're seeing from the campaign, from the Harris campaign, is an aggressive, targeted effort to actually match or do better than where Biden did in 20. And she's on track, I think, to do that. And this doesn't help the Trump campaign by any means.
I want to highlight another thing from this weekend to get both your take on it. Michelle Obama in Michigan on the campaign trail on Saturday with a very direct appeal to men voters. Listen to this, guys.
But to anyone out there thinking about sitting out this election or voting for Donald Trump or a third-party candidate in protest because you're fed up, let me warn you, your rage does not exist in a vacuum. If we don't get this election right, your wife, your daughter, your mother, we as women will become collateral damage to your rage.
Powerful statement. May, what do you think of that as part of their closing message, especially in Michigan?
I don't think it works. Men are not attracted right now to Kamala Harris, because it doesn't feel like she sees that they can be part of her future. And then to have this message of, that might be true, but do it for your wife and your daughters. Of course, they care about their wife and their daughters. How condescending to think that they vote and don't think about their wife and their daughters. But that isn't the issue here. When you hear the people who were interviewed outside of Madison Square Garden, they like that Trump doesn't talk down to them. They like that Trump seems like it was Le'Veon Bell who gave a really now viral video talking about Trump is a real one. This is somebody who they don't feel like is condescending, that they feel like they can be part of the future. And that feeling is not recaptured by Michelle Obama saying, hey, will you think about someone else besides yourself? We do, men do. And I just don't think that it's going to work.
Final thought, Doug?
Well, Trump talks down to everyone, and he doesn't care about anyone but himself. And that's why I think Kamala will actually, the vice president will end up doing pretty well with men. Obviously, men have been moving slightly away from the party, but when Trump talks about taking away hating overtime pay for working folks, goes into the room of millionaires and talking about how he's going to cut their taxes. I think her plan to move the working people and the middle class forward is going to end up paying off for her. And I think that Trump really has never laid out a real clear plan to strengthen the middle class or help working people.
Doug, May, thank you guys both very much.